The rain was that thick, persistent kind that soaks you through in the 30 seconds it takes to run from the car to the door. Sarah fumbled with the keys, a grocery bag cutting into the crook of her arm, already dreaming of the cheap Merlot and the leftover lasagna she knew was in the fridge. The little house they'd moved into 6 months ago, a fixer-upper with a drafty bay window and a landlord who never fixed anything, felt like a palace when the weather was like this. She finally got the door open, kicked off her wet sneakers, and called out, "Leo, I'm home, and I got that weird cheese you like, the one that smells like feet." Silence. Just the hum of the old refrigerator and the drumming of rain on the living room roof. That was odd. His beat-up Ford Focus was in the driveway. She padded into the living room, the hardwood cool under her socks. Leo was there, standing by the bay window, his back to her. He was still in his work clothes, a simple blue button-down and chinos. He looked stiff, coiled tight. "Hey," she said, her voice softer now. "You okay?" He turned, and the look on his face made her stomach drop. It wasn't anger. It was something worse. It was a deep, bone-tired dread she'd never seen on him before. Leo was always the calm one, the one who fixed things, who made her laugh when she was stressed about a work deadline. Right now, he looked like a man waiting for an explosion. "Sarah," he started, his voice a low rasp. "Something's happened." Before she could ask what, a set of headlights swept across the living room wall, bright and aggressive, cutting through the gray twilight. Then another. The deep, throaty growl of expensive engines idled and then cut out. Car doors thudded shut, a chorus of them, crisp and final. Leo closed his eyes for a second, a muscle in his jaw twitching. It's too late. A knock came at the door. Not a friendly, neighborly rap, but a hard, commanding pound. 3 times. Sarah's heart hammered against her ribs. "Leo, who is that? What's going on?" He walked past her, his movements heavy with resignation. He didn't look at her as he opened the door. The rain had stopped as abruptly as it started, leaving the world feeling washed and raw. Standing on their tiny porch, an umbrella held over his head by a man in a dark suit, was an older woman. She was dressed in a perfectly tailored charcoal coat, her silver hair swept back in an elegant chignon. Her face was a mask of cold, aristocratic beauty. Beside her stood a man with the same sharp cheekbones, the same cruel, set to his mouth, but older, more jowly, radiating a lifetime of entitled command. And behind them, on the wet street, were 3 black SUVs with tinted windows, their engines silently ticking. The woman's gaze flickered past Leo, landed on Sarah, and held her with the kind of look you'd give a stain on a priceless rug. "Alexander," the woman said, her voice a silken blade, "your little American holiday is over." Leo, no, Alexander, didn't move. He just stood there, a shield between Sarah and the world on their porch. "You're not welcome here, Mother." Mother. The word hit Sarah like a physical blow. She'd heard stories, of course. Leo had told her his parents were dead, a car accident when he was in his 20s. He had no family. It was one of the things that had drawn them together, 2 people carving their own path in the world. The older man, his father, scoffed. "Don't be dramatic. You've had your fun, playing peasant, but the company needs you. The board is restless. Your signature is required to finalize the Lagos deal. You've cost us billions in market fluctuation by disappearing." Leo's hands, the hands that had fixed her leaky faucet, that held hers during scary movies, clenched into fists at his sides. "I have no signature for you. I have no part of that world. You need to leave. Now." His mother's eyes narrowed. She took a delicate step forward, peering past him into their humble living room, at the second-hand sofa, the crate coffee table, the books stacked in corners. A faint, almost imperceptible smile played on her lips. "And this is what you chose? This mediocrity?" Her gaze finally settled on Sarah again, and this time it was a full-on assessment, clinical and dismissive. "And who is this? Your maid?" "That's my girlfriend," Leo bit out, his voice a low growl of warning. "Her name is Sarah, and you will speak to her with respect." Sarah felt a hot flush of anger and confusion. "Leo, what is happening? Who are these people?" The man, his father, let out a short, barking laugh. "He hasn't told you? Oh, this is rich. He's traded a kingdom for a hovel and a shop girl. Alexander is not just some orphan you took pity on, my dear. He is Prince Alexandros Vasiliev, heir to the Vasiliev fortune. He is the controlling shareholder of Vasiliev Industries, a man who, despite his best efforts to hide, is worth approximately $47 billion. Most of it, I might add, from a rather clever and secret tech investment he made when he was a teenager, before he decided to run away and find himself. Sarah's legs felt weak. She reached out and gripped the back of the armchair. She stared at Leo. He looked like a stranger, the man she'd split rent with, who'd been thrilled to find a $50 coffee table at a garage sale, who had a savings account that she knew had just over $4,000 in it. A prince. A billionaire. He'd built a separate fortune, on top of the one he'd run from. "Is this true?" she whispered, her voice trembling. Leo finally turned to her, and his eyes were filled with a pain so deep it stole her breath. "Yes, my name is Alexandros. The rest, it's all true. I was going to tell you. I was trying to find the right time." "The right time?" Sarah's voice cracked. "We've been together for 2 years. We just signed a lease. I told you about my student loans, and you sat there and just listened." His mother watched the scene with an expression of pure, aristocratic boredom. "Fascinating as this domestic squabble is, Alexandros, we are on a schedule. Your plane leaves in 2 hours." "I'm not going anywhere," Leo said, his voice steel. He took a step towards his mother, his posture changing. The gentle, unassuming Leo was gone. In his place stood someone else, someone with a core of iron and the commanding presence of a man who had been raised to rule. "I made a choice, Mother, a choice you can't control, buy, or threaten. I walked away from your corruption, your backroom deals, your poison. I am never coming back." His father's face reddened. "You ungrateful little. Do you think this is a game? The family's reputation is at stake. The company's stock price is hemorrhaging because of your little temper tantrum." "My stock price?" Leo shot back, a cold, hard edge to his voice. "My portfolio is doing just fine, Father, and it's not tied to a single oil tanker or blood diamond. So you can take your stock price and your reputation and leave." A tense silence followed. The only sound was the drip of water from the eaves. Then, the man who had been holding the umbrella for Leo's mother stepped forward. He was built like a refrigerator, with a shaved head and eyes that were flat and empty. He opens the car door, given no other choice but to get in. "Your brother sends his regards," the man said, his voice a low rumble. "He's very keen for you to come home." It was a threat. A naked, ugly threat. Sarah felt a cold shiver of pure terror run down her spine. This wasn't a family argument. This was something dangerous. Leo's eyes didn't leave the man's. "You tell Dmitri that if he sends his dogs for me again, I won't just disappear. I'll go public with everything. The Swiss accounts, the Panamanian shell companies, the minister's accident in Monaco. I've kept files for a reason." For the first time, a flicker of something other than contempt crossed his mother's face. It was uncertainty. A new sound joined the tension. The crunch of tires on the wet gravel. Another car pulled up, but this one was different. It was a nondescript sedan. 2 men in suits, but these were different suits. Sharper, more federal. They got out and walked calmly up the path, flashing badges at the suited goons by the SUVs. "Lady Vasiliev," one of the men said, his voice calm and official. "We were informed you might be in the area. We need to have a word with you regarding certain financial instruments linked to your husband's recent acquisition in London. It appears some of the documentation may have been falsified." The color drained from his father's face. His mother's mask of composure slipped for a fraction of a second, revealing the panicked creature beneath. The agent glanced at Leo. "Mr. Vasiliev, we'll be in touch." He didn't wait for a reply. He simply gestured towards the SUVs. "If you'd like to follow us to the federal building, we can clear this up quickly." It was a power play. They had been followed. They were being watched. And someone, likely Leo, had tipped them off. His mother gave Leo a look of pure, unadulterated hatred. "This isn't over, Alexander." "Yes, Mother," Leo said, his voice weary. "It is." The agents led them away. The goons got back in the SUVs. The black convoy slowly pulled away into the night, swallowed by the darkness, leaving only the wet street and the echo of the threat. The door clicked shut. The silence in the little house was deafening. Sarah was still gripping the chair. Leo stood with his back to the door, his head bowed. He looked exhausted, a shell of the man who'd left for work that morning. "A prince," Sarah said, her voice flat. "A billionaire. Sarah, please, let me explain." Thanks for watching. And don't forget to like, follow, and share for more billionaire stories. Explain what? That our entire life has been a lie? The tears she'd been holding back started to spill. That when we were struggling to find the money for a new water heater, you had $47 billion in some secret account? That my boyfriend's real name isn't even his real name? He took a step toward her. I'm still Leo. That's who I am. That's who I chose to be. The money. It's just numbers. It's the poison I was trying to escape. The family. They're the ones who are real. Their cruelty. Their greed. That's what I was running from. I was afraid if I told you, you'd look at me the way you're looking at me now. Like I'm one of them. So you lied, she said, her voice breaking. Every day for 2 years you lied. I omitted, he whispered, his own eyes shining with unshed tears. I was a coward. I was so happy, Sarah. Happier than I'd ever been in my life. In my whole gilded, miserable life. Here, with you, in this house, with our cheap wine and our broken heater, I was free. I was loved for me, not for my name, not for my money, for me. I was terrified of losing that. Sarah looked at him, at his familiar, kind face, etched with lines of genuine fear and sorrow. She thought of the man who held her hair back when she was sick, the man who danced with her in the kitchen to old vinyl records, the man who had argued with her landlord about the leaky faucet until he'd fixed it himself. That man was real. That man was standing in front of her. That's why you never wanted to meet my parents, she said slowly, the pieces clicking into place. You were afraid they'd ask questions. That's why you never had any old friends visit. He nodded, a single, miserable dip of his head. I cut everyone off. I started completely over. I just wanted a normal life. I found it. I found you. The enormity of it all was crushing her. The secret, the lies, the danger that just pulled up in 3 black SUVs, the brother who sent thugs, the files he kept. Her whole world, the one she'd carefully built, had just been detonated. She walked over to the bay window and looked out at the empty, wet street. The world outside looked the same. Quiet, ordinary. But inside, everything had changed. So, what now? She asked, not turning around. Your mother said it's not over. She heard him walk up behind her, stopping a respectful distance away. It's not. My brother won't stop. My father's legal troubles might slow them down, but they'll find a way. They always do. She turned then, meeting his eyes. And us? The question hung in the air between them, heavier than any threat from his family. He looked at her, this woman who had given him 2 years of the most precious thing he'd ever known, a real life. And he knew, with a certainty that eclipsed all the fear and uncertainty, that he couldn't lose her. Sarah, I'm still just a man who loves you, he said, his voice rough with emotion. A man with a stupid, complicated, and dangerous past. But a man who will spend the rest of his life making up for this lie, if you let me. We can go anywhere. We can be anyone. We just have to decide. Together. The rain started again, a soft patter against the glass. Sarah looked at the man she loved, truly saw him for the first time. The prince and the pauper, the billionaire and the man who fixed her sink. He was all of it, and she had to decide if the man was worth the chaos. She didn't have an answer. Not yet. But she took a step closer to him, and that, for now, was enough. The secret was out. The storm had broken, and in the quiet aftermath, huddled in their little house against the rain, they had to figure out who they were going to be.
Want to know what happens next? Subscribe now if you want to see part 2.